I'll call to order the August 12th CFPA board meeting. First item on the agenda is determining a quorum. I think we have two board members that we need a motion to excuse, Mr. Norris and Mr. Barfield.
Mr. Chair, this is Rob Zappel. Motion to allow them not to be here, or excuse them, excuse me.
Kevin O'Grady, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the next adoption of the agenda for today. Need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second, Rob Zappel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes from our July 8th meeting. Deans?
We can't hear him in the other room. Deans, could you turn your mic on?
The July minutes are in the packet. Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Rob Zappel, yeah.
Second, Hollis Briggs.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, public comments. Ms. Pope, do we have any speakers today?
I don't think so, but let me go outside and check. No, sir, no speakers.
Okay. Next is our consent agenda. We have 6 items on the agenda for today. Entertain any questions or a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, it's Kevin O'Grady. I have a question on number 4.
Okay.
Go ahead. My question here, I'm not understanding how this arrangement fits in with the STP. We have a developer who's going to build a force main and provide it to us. Does that substitute for the system development charges? And then when the future gravity served developments come in, do they then pay STP?
Mr. O'Grady, this is Carl. So this would be one of our standard development agreements with the developer where they pay for their proportionate share of the project for their flow going into this particular pump station and force main. And then the facility is oversized to accommodate future development for which the authority will be paying. And all the applicable fees apply to the development as well as future development.
So all of the lots that come on the system will all be charged with SDC?
Everybody will be charged an SDC as part of their development. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Motion to approve. This is Jennifer.
Kevin O'Grady, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll move on to new business and our administrative reports. Linda, attorney's report?
I don't have an attorney's report, but I do want to go into closed session to discuss CFPUA versus Chemours and DuPont.
Okay, thank you. Jim, Executive Director's report.
Thank you. This is Jim. We have in your packet, beginning on page 48, the key indicators report, and through page 77, you find also the environmental report, safety report, and the customer service update. And of course, staff is here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Mr. Chair, question. This is Rob Zappel. May I go ahead?
Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks. Jim, on page 62 of the key indicator report, it's the groundwater system flows, Monterey Heights, but also connected with the north side, the Sweeney plant. But specifically in Monterey Heights here, we see that there's a trend of pulling more water from the ground, essentially. I'm just wondering, have there been any negative impacts in the surrounding wells, or is there any negative result as of pulling more than our capacity, our permitted capacity out of that area?
Now, staff has not seen any problems in terms of groundwater and its resiliency, and we are working to add additional wells in that area to take the burden off of the existing wells, and that would be available to us next season, not this season.
Great. And so we're making an attempt to reach out to the community to see if we, have any sinkholes, or there's been any impact to people's property or their irrigation wells. Are we doing that?
I don't know that we're taking deliberate outreach steps in that sense, but we have not heard any reports of problems from our customers or complaints about other wells drying up. But seasonally, certainly a lot of shallow wells this time of year. If it's in the superficial aquifer, they might go dry, and that would likely not be related to our work. But we will certainly stay up to speed, and if we do hear any complaints from our customers, we'll do everything we can to look into it and understand it.
Thank you very much. Also, Jim, or I guess Beth, maybe, on number 3, the safety report, page 74, there's an interesting item there. I think it's the last item on the report about it appears to be a fake OSHA inspector. Has there been any resolve with that? Or did it just seem bizarre? Is there somebody there who can fill in what happened?
I don't know that that has been resolved, and what I'd like to do is pull together a more comprehensive response and get that to the board this week. That would be acceptable.
I'd appreciate it. The OSHA situation inspection, OSHA, the entire program, both nationally as well as in our state, is under a great deal of stress because of budget cuts and just an overall kind of lack of support, frankly, for that that organization. So if you could look into it, I'd greatly appreciate it. It's they obviously provide a tremendous amount of safety inspections for commercial as well as residential things. And even though they may be considered a pain in the neck to a lot of people, the work that they do is incredibly important. So it concerns me when I see somebody, again, as a fake inspector. It's just weird. So I appreciate any other information.
We'll certainly get that out, and I can say, of course, we're committed to the safety of our staff and to the public. Take any safety issue involving us or our staff very seriously.
Thank you. And the last question, Mr. Chair, is for the customer service update. I noted that July the 31st ended our no disconnect policy. I was wondering, I know we're only, August the 12th, I guess today is, 12 days into August, but have we seen any uptick in disconnects in the first part of August?
And that's something that our CFO, John McLean, discussed with the Finance Committee. And while we're seeing a trend that it is taking longer for people to pay, we'll be monitoring that as an indication of our customers' ability to pay on time. And we're also looking at ways that we can encourage people to pay through sending out reminders, putting out information to the public. But certainly, given the circumstances of our economy, we're trying to be very flexible and understanding with our customers, recognize the importance of our services. But it's something we are tracking and working on, and we'll also be bringing a program to the Sustainability Committee later this month to talk about our approach to non-payment by customers.
Jim, if I can make a recommendation, if we could add to the dashboard of that executive director's report or the key indicator report, maybe another graph that would show us month by month the number of disconnects, so we could have a visual representation to see how this is trending. Would that be possible?
Right now, we're not doing disconnects for non-payment, but we can show the graph that our CFO put together that talks about and depicts how long it's taking for customers to pay. So we can certainly do that and be happy to put that information in the packet.
Thank you, Jim. I just want to make sure I heard you right, that right now we've had no forced disconnects at this point, certainly since the executive order went into place.
For this calendar year, we have not. Certainly, that's something that we as an organization and we as a community need to talk about and deal with. And we have some ideas that we'll be bringing forward to the Sustainability Committee in 2 weeks.
Great. That's good news. And I hope we could put that information out to the public. I think it says a lot of really positive things about us as an organization, and certainly you as the executive director of the organization. So I think that's good news. We should spread that out.
Yes,
We will.
this is Jessica. I just wanted to echo Rob's comments. Obviously, in a pandemic, being able to access water is it's a matter of life and death. And I applaud this organization for taking the extra time and effort and doing the research to find ways to make sure that we are able to help our community stay safe. So thanks very much, Jim.
Thank you.
One more question. This is Jennifer. Have we further extended the deadline?
The executive order is expiring, but we have administratively not taken any steps to begin disconnections. And again, we think that's a topic that needs to come through the Sustainability Committee that will roll out what we believe is a reasonable strategy, a timeline, a communication strategy, all the parts and pieces you would need so that the public understands where we're headed and gives us an opportunity to work with them.
Thank you.
And we do have one item that's a walk-in item that's coming through Carl Vandermeiden's shop, and Carl has information on that related to a generator.
I think in last week's weekly update, there was an article that we put in there for how we fare through the hurricane with our generators. And if you had a chance to read that, there was one generator where we did have a failure, which was the larger generator at the Northside wastewater treatment plant, where the bearing housing on the fan, the cooling fan, disintegrated and all the parts went through the radiator. Fortunately, this was on Tuesday at the tail end of the hurricane and the power outages. So we were able to work our way through that and still keeping the plant in operation. What this particular walk-in item is the repair for that particular generator. It's a 2,000 kilowatt generator, pretty large. It's 13 years old, and it needs to have the radiator and some of the cooling systems replaced. The cost for the parts is about $69,000, and then with labor and installation and some crane rigging, because this unit is very large, it's $96,566. And this would be with a sole source with Gregory Poole, who is the certified, the authorized Caterpillar dealer for our area for that particular make generator. It will take about 4 weeks to complete. We have installed a temporary generator at the facility in the interim to make sure that we have enough backup power capabilities, and that unit has been installed and is up and running and available for service in case we lose or have commercial power interrupted. So the recommended action for this is to authorize the executive director to make a sole source equipment purchase for the repairs of this particular generator.
Mr. Chair, do we need a motion to approve?
Yes.
If so, then motion to approve.
A question, capital versus expense. So are we paying for it on capital where it's going to then go on our depreciation, even though it's a repair and not necessarily extending the life of the unit?
Right. This would be paid out of capital budget.
Mhm.
Would not qualify.
It doesn't qualify for depreciation.
That's correct. It would be expenses in the year.
Okay.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Hey, Jim. This Hollis, I have another question.
Go ahead.
What would be the lifespan on repairing that generator as compared to getting a new one? And what?
The generator itself, we can probably get, in excess of 20 years on something like that size. So we feel we still have, the value of a new generator would be probably in excess of $2 million. So I think we're, it makes sense to repair it. We did look at whether it makes sense to buy a new radiator for this unit instead of getting the existing radiator recoiled. That was, I think, increased the cost by about 10%. But the problem with that is that there's a 10-week lead time for that. And during that time, we would incur additional cost for renting a temporary generator, which runs about $50,000 a month. So I think we looked at all the viable options, and this seems to be the most cost effective.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or
This is Larry Sneeden. I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we'll go to our, was that all, Jim? Do you have any? That was it. Thank you. Committee reports, executive committee met on August 5th. The minutes are in your packet. Long-range planning, Mr. Sneeden.
Yes, the Long Range Planning Committee met on July 23rd, and the minutes of that meeting are in your packet. We have two items to put before the board today. One is revisions to the Water Emergency Management Ordinance, and we're recommending approval of that. And the second is a information item for the Sidbury and Greenview area preliminary engineering report. I believe Carl has has presentations on those.
I do. I have a presentation on both, and I'll start with the ordinance change for the water emergency management plan. So this particular item is a change to our existing ordinance that allows the executive director to declare various staged water emergencies during times of a drought or water emergency. Earlier this year, CFPUA, Brunswick County, Pender County, and Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority developed a raw water supply emergency plan, which was also approved by this board. What this particular item will do is take that Lower Cape Fear plan and then marry up our plan with that so it's consistent. So when we're talking stage 1 water conservation measures under the Lower Cape Fear plan, it means the same thing as our stage 1. Same thing with stage 2 water conservation measures. So I think there was a chart in your packet, which is up on the screen now. And I won't try to go through it because it's hard to read, but in the dark blue top row of that chart, you see the various conservation stages. It goes from a normal and then gradually increases from a stage 1 to a stage 4. That is consistent with the Lower Cape Fear plan and what Brunswick County has for stage 1 and Pender County. So we're all communicating the same thing when we're talking about water conservation levels. And then the fourth row on that top column or top row called restrictions that addresses how it progresses from no restrictions to voluntary restrictions, mandatory restrictions, and then eventually prohibited restrictions. So for example, irrigation, you would have normal irrigation, then you have voluntary restrictions, mandatory with the alternate even odd days, and eventually, depending on the situation, it would be no irrigation during that particular event. And then it addresses all the different other uses, whether it's irrigation or using hoses or car washing or things like that. So this particular, all these requirements are in our ordinance, and in order to change and calibrate our plan with and make it consistent with other plans, we had to do an ordinance change, which needs to be approved by the board.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions from the board?
This is Jennifer. A question on the approved large commercial industrial institutional irrigation system. Oh, irrigation systems. I'm sorry. I didn't read it that far. Never mind. Answered my own question. Duh.
Any other questions? Have a motion to approve the ordinance change?
So moved.
Second, Rob Zappel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second item that came out of long-range planning, that's also in your packet, is an information item on the Sidbury and Greenview area preliminary engineering report that looked at a planning level effort on how to bring water and sewer to this particular area that is currently largely undeveloped. So the authority and the county entered into an interlocal agreement back in October of last year to facilitate the planning for water and sewer services to the Sidbury and Greenview area in northern New Hanover County. And the intent of this planning effort was to look at economic development and to and promote significant growth in these areas that were previously outside the urban services boundary area. It was a team effort with a consultant of McKim & Creed and Hazen. They were selected through our engineering process to conduct the study. The county provided significant funding assistance with that, and the county planning department was actively involved in this project along with CFPUA staff. So this particular slide shows the overall study area, which you can see here on the northern part. It's bounded by the northeast Cape Fear River. On the eastern side, Pender County. On the west side, I-40. And then on the southern area, south of I-140, it was the former urban services boundary area. And then the area within the planning area, obviously it's a very large area. It's about 17,000 acres of land that is mostly undeveloped at this point. And it is the color coding that you see, it kind of identifies some of the ownership of the larger tracts of land. The approach that we took for this study was very similar to the 421 preliminary engineering report that was done a few years ago. Essentially, what we did was we look at the potential use of the land, what is developable land in this study area, what would be the build out water and sewer needs in terms of how much water is required, how much sewer will be generated in these areas over time, and then recommend long-term water and sewer extensions into the area, along with what costs would be required to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, county staff was very actively involved with that. The chart on the left shows the developable acres of land. So out of the 17,000 acres of available land, about 9,500 acres is available for development with various land uses that are broken out, with about 69% in total for residential, 8% recreational, and the remainder being industrial and commercial land uses. The table on the right on this slide identifies the water and sewer needs for the area. We did a 30-year planning horizon through the year 2050, where the water and sewer needs are around 3.5 million gallons per day. And then the ultimate build out beyond 2050, the water and sewer needs are just north of 5 million gallons per day. How the area is proposed to be served, and again, we're at a very high level master planning approach here, and we're looking at building essentially the spine water and sewer lines along major corridors. This particular slide shows the sewer system improvements, where you see Holly Shelter Road has a sewer force main proposed for that. Sidbury Road, similar, and then south of I-140 through the Greenview area, Ranches area also. It would convey sewer services from the east to the west, where it connects to our existing infrastructure. Similarly, for the water side, major improvements along Holly Shelter Road, Sidbury Road, and then south of I-140. There are some lines that you see running north-south. That is to loop existing water lines to promote circulation and minimize water age. And then everything connects to on the east side or on the west side to our existing infrastructures. On the water side, we do have to long-term make some other improvements within our existing service areas. And those are color-coded between the yellow, green, and blue in terms of what year they would occur. Typically, those are in the year 2030 to 2050 in order to support this area. And then lastly, we're very excited about this, that there's already a development that is very interested in moving forward in this. This is the development of Sidbury Road. It's about at the midway point as you're going from east to west on Sidbury Road. It's called Sidbury Farms. The developer is D.R. Horton. What D.R. Horton is looking at is constructing water and sewer lines off College Road from our existing infrastructure all the way past their development as a phase one. They would take the lead on that in order to provide water and sewer services to their development, which will have approximately 750 residential homes. The total cost that they're looking at potentially investing is things like $4.5 million for building that infrastructure. And then they would enter into a cost recovery agreement with the authority where other benefiting developments would pay a capacity fee similar to what we have done on other projects. But the exciting part about this is that a significant portion of the infrastructure along Sidbury Road would be constructed consistent with this plan in the near term as that developer moves forward with their project. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair, Rob Zappel, I have a question.
Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you. Carl, you just mentioned in your report here about the Sidbury Farms development, and you mentioned that you were pulling for a number, an estimated cost that they'd be putting in is at around $4.5 to $4.6 million. On the chart that I have in my packet, it says $2.6 million. Is there something exciting that, that is not in this chart? Is there a plan to expand that, or am I misreading something?
I can get back to you on that, Mr. Zappel. I'm certain that the cost to extend water and sewer lines along Sidbury Road to the Sidbury Farms development that D.R. Horton is looking at is the $4.6 million. And I can circle back and see where the other number refers to.
Yeah, it's on my page 119 in the packet. So that'd be great. And it's great news, and it's exciting to have a project to help us move that along rapidly. So I was just hoping that maybe they had expanded their project, but we'll talk later and figure out the difference between the 2.6 and the 4.6.
One is water, one is sewer.
Yes, 2.6 is what?
Oh, I see.
So the total cost would be 4.6,
For water and sewer.
water and one being sewer, for a total of 4.6.
Thank you.
Carl, I had one question. So I think from what I've seen, this is kind of probably a trend. It's like as this area is being developed, there's going to be these coordination efforts between the master plan and then as people want to move forward. Is that developers come to the overall preliminary engineering report is to serve these areas, and then as developers step up, it'll just be coordinated into that plan as it develops. Is that?
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. And, I see mainly two activities going on. One would be is the coordination with the master plan in terms of, we're just constructing these spine utilities or planning those out, but then individual developments would obviously have to connect to that, very similar to what we're doing on 421.
Right.
The other activity would be is that as time goes by, we would update our master planning based on actual growth rates and densities and things like that, just to make sure that what we're projecting here in 2020 is still valid in future years.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Carl. Is that it for long-range planning?
That concludes our report. I would like to mention that it's my understanding that we now have long-range plans for all of our undeveloped service area, both in the lower part of the state. Is that correct, Carl?
I would say that's correct, Mr. Sneen. This is obviously a very large undeveloped tract. In our water master plan, we're addressing some of the other smaller pockets. And we are also getting ready to update our sewer master plan, which again would look at some of those smaller pockets. But, in general, in the last few years, we addressed the 421 corridor. With this, we're addressing, the undeveloped areas, in the northern part of the county. And I think with the northern water main, we also address some of the Castle Hayne undeveloped areas. So I think we've touched on pretty much all the areas.
Thank you. Well, that's great. Well, long-range planning can take the rest of the year off then. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Larry.
Mr. Chair, it's Rob Zappel. I had a follow-up question to Larry's question. Carl, I know these are gross numbers, but with this kind of major planning, that we've now covered the entire county, does that match up with our, the Sweeney treatment plants, maximum, the 35 million gallons a day that we're permitted for? In other words, do the numbers add up for what we have in the way of development coming forward, or is it just too early to tell?
For the planning horizon of going through a year 2050, the numbers do match up. Last year, we completed our water master plan, which looked at future population trends and growth in the area, I think past 2040 and even up to 2050, consistent with the planning that the city and the county were doing. And then we matched that up with water capacity for Sweeney, which would see an expansion from 35 to 44 million gallons per day, and also the Richardson plant with an increase in capacity from 6 to 9 million gallons per day. So we are, those master plans, we do them about every 7 years, and taking that 20, 30-year planning horizon and continuously updating those, but things do match up with that.
That's terrific news. Thanks, Carl.
Moving on to Finance Committee, Ms. Adams.
The minutes from the August 5th Finance Committee meeting are in your packet, and Mr. McLean has a finance update for the end of the year, through the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Good morning. Wait for this presentation to come up. Let's see. So as Ms. Adams mentioned, I wanted to take this opportunity to go through the end of the year results. Some of these numbers are going to change slightly. We're still closing out the end of FY20, but for sense of scale, sense of magnitude, these are the numbers. And I wanted to point out that we have a pretty sizable surplus here on the operating side, an operating surplus of around $7.5 million. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Certainly having a surplus is preferable to having a deficit. We obviously, if we had a deficit, we'd be having some difficult conversations about how to fill that gap. But with that said, we still want to try to minimize surpluses, because these are by definition amounts that are billed to our customers in excess of what it costs to operate the system in that current year. So for FY21, for the FY21 budget, so this current year's budget, we've really taken a critical look at the trends and those different factors that drive our revenues. On the expenditure side, we've changed our budgeting approach to be more centralized and consistent, which should help us to budget a little tighter. So all these things should result in our FY21 actuals, being closer to what we planned in the budget. So my next point is, so kind of a point of emphasis is, when we have these surpluses, though, they don't just sit and accumulate and sit idly. Okay. So our financial policies provide for uses of these surplus funds that reduce rates for our customers in the future. And that kind of mechanism there is either paying off debt early, resulting in interest savings, or parking that money aside and pre-funding capital projects that we otherwise would have debt funded, which again results in interest savings in the future. So these are dollars that we may not have needed in a given year, in that given year, so in FY20, but it's certainly money that we are going to deploy. It's not just going to sit there. It's not going to just build up. And so we are going to use those funds, and they will result in future savings to our customers. So just preliminarily, we normally take this surplus number, I think, to the November finance and board meetings after our audit is done, and we make a recommendation on what to do with these surplus funds. But my recommendation likely will be to use some of these funds to park in a capital reserve to pre-fund the Southside wastewater treatment plant capacity upgrade that is in the 2030, 2031 timeline there. And if you'll remember back a couple of months ago, when we looked at that 20-year model and looked at the projection of rates over that time period, we saw that completely debt funding the Southside project would result in a pretty substantial spike to rates. And always being conscious of the impact to rates on our customers, we certainly want to smooth that out. And one of those ways that we can reduce that spike is to obviously debt fund less. So pre-funding some of the cost of Southside with surplus funds is certainly a way to do that. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's it for
Done? Yep.
Finance. Human Resources Committee, Mr. O'Grady.
Yes, the Human Resources Committee met on July 29th, and the minutes are in your packet.
Thank you. Before we go into closed session, any old business needs to be addressed? I had one just closing comment before we go into closed session. I think, fortunately for us here in this area, the storm wasn't that bad, but I think it's always impressive of how organized and proactive that the staff is to be prepared for these things. And it seems like all the lessons learned from previous years, everybody addresses and is all over it. So I just want to commend staff on all the hard work to make sure that we do. There's always issues, especially generators, et cetera. And it's always impressive how organized this staff is to address those potential issues. So appreciate that.
Here, it's Rob Zappel. I had a follow-up comment to yours.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to put a spotlight for just a moment on the executive director's update that was dated August 7th, 2020, where they covered many of the issues that you just spoke about our preparedness or the entire enterprise's organization's preparedness. But on page 3 there, it goes into a little more detail that talks about the 5 different crews that mobilized all 150 pump station sites before the hurricane to ensure that the stations were accessible and operational, and then clearing crews immediately after to make sure that all the pump stations were up and running. It mentions also further that the pump stations group's preparation and recovery efforts helped us successfully weather the storm with no loss of service or major issues. It's a pretty bland sentence, but underneath it is a tremendous amount of work. And it's my understanding that Robert Daughtry is one of the managers of the pump station group and really deserves the board's recognition or special recognition for doing something that we don't even think about. But, the 235,000 residents of New Hanover County had water and sewer throughout what turned out to be a pretty significant storm and without interruption. We don't think about it, but underneath that, there's a tremendous amount of work and pre-planning and execution by a lot of people who sacrificed being away from their homes to make sure that we all had the basic public services we needed. So again, I just wanted to throw a spotlight on Mr. Daughtry and the good work he and his group are doing. I know that also reflects on you, Frank, as their supervisor and their manager. So good job.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Zappel. With that, if there's anything else, we'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Just a moment. I wanted to add, in addition to talking about CFPUA versus Comores, we will also get legal advice on the consent decree between DEQ and Comores.
Okay. Motion to go into closed session.
So moved, Jennifer.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey.